Hello, everybody, and welcome to this noon taster session for the Noon Academy. I'm just going to keep talking as everybody comes in, but we're delighted to welcome you today. I'm Ellen Mills. I'm the founder of Noon, and I am delighted to welcome you to this first Midlife Muse Transform Your Mindset taster session with the incredible Christina Ioannidis, who you can see next to me on the screen here. The whole point of the Noon Academy is to bring some of our experts from our advisory board, like the amazing Christina, to a wider audience to really try and help women with this particularly intense period. We know that midlife is a point of a time of what we call pinch points, where you get hit by lots of different things at once, whether that's health things or career stuff or children leaving home, or it's just when all the chickens come home to roost. And a lot of us kind of go through a bit of a dip. And Christina is here to really show you how to transform your mindset and move on from some of those midlife troubles. So the idea today is we're going to give you a little taster of what the course is going to be like. The actual course won't start for another 2 weeks. I think it's a really amazing course, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity because usually Christina's one-to-one coaching sessions cost £300 an hour, and this course isn't very much more than that, and you get lots and lots of live Christina, and she really is amazing. So I really hope that you enjoy what she has to offer today. Welcome to Noon. For those of you who are interested, our Noon Book Club, the next one is on the 17th of February. You can get a free book called Normal Form if you sign up to our newsletter and go through the book club channels. And in the meantime, I'm going to hand you over to Christina, who's going to tell you all about her Midlife Muse Transformation Course. Enjoy.
Thank you very, very much, Eleanor. It'd be wonderful if I could have the ability to share my screen. I think we've got Jen on the line who can give me access so I can share my screen and I can show you a few slides that I have for you. First of all, thank you very much, Eleanor, and my congratulations to you on setting up Noon. It's a fantastic cause. And it's more than just a cause, it's a movement. And this is one of the reasons why I so much agreed to being part of this. And I'm so excited to be able to include the Midlife Muse Transformation Bootcamp. So I'm going to do a little bit of a test if you allow me to do.
You should be able to share now, Christina. Jen's enabled that. And everyone, I just a tiny bit of background on Christina. She and I have been friends and fellow travelers on this agenda for about 15 years. We first met at a whole series of, we kept being put on the same panels and put on the same stage at various kind of women in business conferences about 15 years ago when I was working at the Sunday Times. I loved her book, Win Back Your Female Talent. We caught up again during these kind of midlife travails because Christina had a very difficult perimenopause. She'll tell you all about that and has been through all sorts of transitions herself. And I just think that the whole purpose of what happens at midlife is about embracing transition and really understanding what that's about. And change is really difficult. The first thing, actually the most helpful thing that anyone said to me during my own big change was, change is difficult. It's, you know, it's tough. You're allowed to find it difficult. And I think that just allowing yourself just to kind of breathe out and go, change is difficult. It's not me being useless. This is a hard time. And I need some kind of coaching to help me through it is a really good place to start. And I wish I'd had Christina's course when I went through my own nude moment a couple of years ago. But anyway, here she is without further ado. Hopefully she's got her slides to work and we can kick off.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Eleanor. Thank you so much. Welcome everyone who is with me. My name is Christina Ioannidis. Now I'm going to take a couple of seconds to just do a bit of a system review. So excuse me 1 second. I just want to make sure, in fact, if people are online, oh, hello. There we go. If people are online, can you let us know if you can see me well? Because my system seems to be a little bit jumpy. I am someone who's been doing a lot of training and development and consulting for many, many years, and I'll tell you more about that in a few seconds. But I love engagement. So please be in touch on chat. Give us your questions. I'm going to share with you a little bit about the Midlife Muse Transformation Bootcamp that we're running with Noon Academy, and I'm so delighted to be part of it. And I also share with you some of my personal learnings and strategies that I've pulled together as a result of my personal transitions. So here is a slide that tells you a little bit about me. So I will just move these over. There you go. So this is me. I have been in the world of business for a very long time. By the way, this hair color, which I hope you can see, is platinum, is natural. I'm one of those women who's always believed in being the authentic her. And I'm very lucky that I have worked in various industries and have been traveling the world, working with companies on how to help them transform, and also individuals as well. I've been working in this field for a very long time, and I'm actually the menopause contributor for Noon. And the reason why I got involved with Noon is because, and I'm going to move into my next slide, I would like you to see this. This is me and the transformation that I went through in the years of 40, between the ages of 41 and 48, or 47, which is the picture that you see on the screen. I hope that you can see it. The picture on the left is me at 41 years old, before I moved into, I was living in the UK, as Eleanor said. We were doing loads of work around diversity, inclusion, helping companies transform in various ways. And then I moved to Dubai, and something very bizarre happened. At the age of 41, it just seemed like my system completely came to a halt. I started getting depressions. I started piling on the pounds. And ladies, I'm not someone who just sits there and just focuses on what the scales say. I'm someone who is very active, and I exercise. But what I found really weird is that I was at a phase in my life where I seemed, no matter how much I worked out, I seemed to carry on putting on weight. I seemed to not be able to control depression. I was super, by the way, I was super successful. I was traveling the world. I was able to do trainings and work in China, in Singapore, in Southeast Asia, all over the place. I was living on a plane. In fact, in 2019, I traveled the world 2.3 times. And I hope you can hear that, because that means Google, the company that knows everything about us, highlighted to me that I had gone around the world 2.3 times, which is extraordinary. I've never done that. This was, of course, pre-COVID. However, what happened in 2020 is what kind of came to a grinding halt for my life. And that's where the combination of COVID, the combination of my perimenopause, as I now discovered, led to this perfect storm where, like a lot of us during COVID-19, I became completely bedridden. In 2020, I became completely bedridden. And the reason why I highlight this is because what I call the midlife maelstrom, there's a few things that are happening to us at the same time. Some of them are physical, some of them are emotional, a lot of them are just we're just absolutely, we just feel like we're hit from many different angles. And the reason why I highlight this is because what I identified at that time, being in touch with my gynecologist, is the fact that, yes, I may have been hormonally up and down, and the reason, and I'll explain to you what happened. What I didn't realize is that it wasn't just my hormones, it was my whole body was out of whack. And somehow in the middle of 2020, so this is in the middle of the COVID pandemic, I started doing something which I had no idea was going to impact me so positively. And this is where I went through the transformation that you will see, hopefully, in this picture that will show up in the next slide. I don't know if you can see this, but this is a picture of me now. This picture was actually taken 2 weeks ago. This is a new Christina. This is a Christina who has not only lost 15 kilos. So I don't know if you can see this, hopefully you can. On the right-hand side, these are actual logs of my weight. I was logging my weight in 2017 and 2016 at 83.2 kilos. I think you multiply it by 2 for pounds. And now in 2022, I'm 69 kilos. So that's 14 kilos. That's 17% of my body weight I lost. I also have become much, much more in control of my life. I feel, so I was telling you, I was depressive. I was in the deepest and the worst bits of the dump you could possibly imagine. I can't describe it any better. I was so, I felt like my body was fighting me, and I felt like I wasn't able to function. And this is one of the reasons why when I talk about perimenopause and our midlife challenges, it hits our performance. So I was going at easily 50%. And the reason why I put this picture of my weight loss is not because it's about fat and it's about weight. It's a metaphor for me in being a lighter me, in control of myself, my body, my life. I am much happier, I am super energetic, and much, much more importantly, I am positive about the future. So I'm hoping that you're understanding that I've been through possibly what you are going through now, and my journey hasn't ended. I'm still going through it. But the next thing I want to share with you is the reason why I believe that we can all be what I call midlife muses. And this is my muse. So this is my, hopefully you'll see this. This is a picture of my mother, and I'm going to use her story as well as an inspiration to you, because it's not just about me. My mother was, who unfortunately passed away due to COVID-19 in November 2020, which, by the way, was an other aggravating factor to my symptoms in midlife, to my perimenopausal midlife maelstrom turmoils. My mother, who, as you can see here, was not only beautiful, she was in 1953, she left Venezuela, she won a scholarship, and she went to the US and Europe and was a professional pianist. She had a career at a time when women didn't have careers. She was extraordinary, and I write it here, was a sabotaged woman. Her health, when she went through this menopausal phase, I remember it because I was watching her. She went from 60 kilos to obese. She had a hysterectomy, which was very fashionable at the time, where your bits as a woman are taken out completely. And she immediately went into menopause. She didn't take hormone replacement therapy. She had hair loss. She then suffered acute osteoporosis, so much so that she needed to have knee replacement surgery in 2008. At the same time, she developed diabetes 2, which is a form of, basically your body can't metabolize sugars, blood sugar, so you have a lot of sugar in your blood. And she also had what's called insulin resistance. So basically, she was producing too much of a hormone called insulin, which meant that until the end, her body had too much blood sugars. And I don't want to get biological on you, but when you're insulin resistant, you're also very hungry. and it impacts it completely throws your hormones off balance. She was also, and again, this is a result of being insulin resistant, she was chronically sleep deprived. And when she passed away in November 2020, she ended her life with a very bad quality of life, all of which could have been avoidable, ladies. And this is the reason why I call this the Midlife Muse Transformation, is because my muse did not know that what was happening in her body, but her learnings, her teachings to me, her experience is what I've put into this course. And because the reason why I kind of highlight this is because very often when we hit this point, like myself, like she, we think it's only about 2 or 3 hormones, but it's everything is out of whack. Our system has been thrown out of kilter. So what we do, and this is where, by the way, as I said to you, please ask me questions on chat. I've got the chat box open on my bottom left screen. So please, any questions, throw them my way, because there's so much content I could go on for hours, but I really want to make sure it's focused on the kind of important nuggets that you can take away as a taster. And the way the Midlife Muse Transformation Bootcamp works, and I'll tell you a little bit about some of the content that we'll go through, is that you will have the opportunity to have a 1-month bootcamp, which has 12 modules per week. So we have 4 live sessions. The rest will be on-demand sessions. You will also receive a dedicated workbook with themed learning resources, checklists, and exercises. And you will also have post-session homework, which I love giving because it's something that is, for me, that's very important to make sure that we carry on the learning in our own time. And I often say you can do this when you have your own tipple. I love working and doing stuff with a little bit of wine on the side. It's no issue whatsoever. Then you will also have access to your Midlife Muse Transformation Mentoring Group. This is money can't buy support. So that's the structure. I will talk a little bit about the how it all works in using the 4 different areas that we will cover. There's actually a question that's come through, and I really want to take it now. So the question is, why is midlife such a maelstrom? And thank you very much for this question, because it's a combination of things. On the one side, we've got our physical changes, and I'm actually going to bring up a slide. Hopefully you can see this one. There are changes that are physical. So at the bottom of this triangle, you can see the physical changes. There are changes that also happen kind of on a mental basis, our brain changes. And then we also have changes that happen at a social level. Now, I don't know if you know this, but when we hit midlife, we tend to be at the most productive of our lives. We tend to be at the point where we're at the highest peak of our careers, but at the same time, we're called what's known as the sandwich generation. We have children who may have left or may be with us in the home, but at the same time, we have the responsibility of aging parents that also that falls on us. At the same time, we have the problem. So these are 2 things. At the same time, we have the problem that our bodies are shifting, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our hormonal challenges in just a few seconds. So this is why I call it a maelstrom, because it is the physical, the mental, and then all the social and societal responsibilities that kind of fall onto us in that midlife, which paralyzes us. And this is where I'm going to get to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is stress and anxiety. Now, I wish everyone could answer a question. In fact, I'm going to ask it. How many of you here who are listening to us at this moment have challenges in sleeping? Please say yes. Please type yes on chat. Yeah, thank you very much for responding to that. That was my first symptom as well, where I would get up in the middle of the night. How many of you get up in the middle of the night because of because of either you just don't know, your mind is racing, or you are your eyes just pop open? Well, what happens then? So some great stuff. There's a couple of people who said they don't have the hot flushes or the waking up in the middle of the night since they had hormone replacement therapy. I'll come back to that. What tends to happen for us, and this is why anxiety was also at the heart of all of this, which are the physical symptoms at the bottom here. The physical symptom for me was I couldn't sleep. I was walking around in the middle of the night. And the reason why is because I was, like a lot of you, very high in a hormone called cortisol. So there is a great concept, and I believe in it 100%, which is called the hormonal hierarchy. When we think about our hormones as women, we think of progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone, which are sex hormones. But the very important hormones that also affect the sex hormones are oxytocin, which is the feel-good hormone, cortisol, which is the one that I talk about the one that kind of brings up stress and anxiety, and then we have insulin. I mentioned insulin earlier in the way that insulin is a hormone that allows your body to kind of use up what has in its blood reserves. So these three hormones work in tandem. Now, what tends to happen to us women is, and obviously you have Dr. Najat, who does a fantastic job at explaining these in Noon. But for us women who are also very important, focused on our performance, the number one thing we have to think about and understand is that what drives this anxiety is our hormones being out of whack. Excuse me, just 1 second. My battery seems to be low. Just bear with me one moment, and I will double check what is happening here. Hopefully this will work. Give me a thumbs up if you can see this. Hopefully this will work. Let's see. So our hormones are out of whack. What tends to happen is we become super anxious. It's a vicious cycle. When we're anxious, we then become stressed. We produce a lot more of what's called cortisol. When we do this, and it becomes chronic, when we have cortisol, and it's fine for the short term, but what happens to us as us women, and I said to you when we're in the sandwich generation, is we tend to actually have too much cortisol on a chronic basis, which means that our body can't metabolize it, our body can't get rid of it. So what tends to happen, we become even more stressed. Now, what we need to do, and this is what I learned the hard way, because ladies, remember that I went through that terrible grief, and I lost my mother, and it was absolutely horrible for me. One of the first things I did, and this is by complete chance, I had no idea that I was doing this, and this would help me, is I started managing my cortisol levels. So when I came across this hormonal hierarchy, I realized that I needed, because our body needs balance, we need to manage our cortisol. People say, oh yeah, reduce stress, but it's not so easy. But what we can do is increase another hormone called oxytocin, which is all about making sure that we have calmness in our life, bonding in our life, which, by the way, is something that's been taken away from as a result of COVID-19. So for those who don't know, oxytocin is a hormone that's all about us bonding. So when women have children, they create this this hormone called oxytocin, and the whole point of this hormone is to help bond with a child. Now, we need oxytocin in our life to be productive, because it balances, as I said, cortisol. Now, for me, you might say, Christina, what has this got to do with the understanding the midlife maelstrom? This is the fundamental piece for us women, because we tend to be so high on the chronic stress side of things that we completely leave to the wayside how we manage oxytocin. And doing simple things like someone said here, meditating, helping ourselves exercise, but exercise, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Exercising in a way that works for us is important. Doing things that give us pleasure, painting, reading, those me moments have to be prioritized, have to become number one. And that's one of the biggest challenges that we face when we work as women, is that we find it very hard to say no to something and saying, I'm going to focus on myself. I'm going to make myself a priority. And that's why when we do the Midlife Muse Transformation Bootcamp, it's all about, number one, putting yourself at the heart of your life, to be honest. And how do we do this? Well, we look at 4 different quadrants, okay? And hopefully you can see this. And Nancy is, by the way, saying, I love this. She says, flooding brain with pleasure memories of connection is quite effective, even when not physically present with others. Absolutely. So what do we focus on in the Midlife Muse Transformation Bootcamp? Number one, because oxytocin is all about pleasure and about doing what you love, the first thing we look at is understanding what makes you tick and how you're bringing that passion into your life. Very often, as I said, we leave ourselves to the side, and that's why we need to be reminded of this. So we do various exercises where we look at what are the things that you are passionate about, the things that some people, by the way, don't have passions, and it's understanding what are the things that they care about, bringing those to the fore, making sure they have those at the crux of their life. The second area is about building your individual plasticity. Midlife is that point in our life where we are going to go through transition, but there'll be even more transitions in the future. What we need to do is actually prepare ourselves, build the mental resilience, and I call it flexi-proofing, adapting your life and having the attitude or the mindset to say, I can come and conquer anything I put my mind to. So this is what the second part of the model focuses on, which is what we focus wholly when we do the Midlife Transformation Muse Midlife Transformation Muse Bootcamp. The other area we focus is on your power of networks, and this is the engage phase. The reason why midlife tends also to be so difficult for us is because we tend to isolate. I give full credit to Noon and to Jennifer and to Eleanor and to the team, because they're creating a community and network to support us. And that's what we need to do as women, is we need to create win-win relationships with others, including our partners. Men are enormous stakeholders in our transition through life. Our husbands, our sons, our male partners are just as important. And so this is why we also focus on,
Hi, everyone. We seem to have temporarily had a glitch with Christina.
It's such a shame because I was really enjoying everything that she was saying about kind of midlife and how one can sometimes feel so discombobulated. She says that there's been lots of snow in Greece recently, so I think that the internet there's been a bit dodgy. I'm sure she'll rejoin us soon. And if not, I think you've really all got a real sense of how amazing Christina is and what she's going to be offering on this course. Yes, I think a computer. So someone's saying, Eleanor, have you done the boot camp? I haven't done a boot camp, but I've been through all the materials. And I tell you, just being with Christina is like a kind of constant boot camp. She and I have regular chats and she's always like, are you taking enough exercise? Are you doing this? How's your mindset? So I really believe in her. Everything that we offer at Noon comes from women who I really believe in and whose kind of power I've really absorbed for myself. And I think, yeah, someone's saying great mutual support. And I think that's the point. I mean, all the experts on Noon, the women on our advisory board, Jen, these are all the kind of fruits of the network that I've built up over the last 25 years. I was the editorial director at the Sunday Times, editor of the Sunday Times magazine, chair of Women in Journalism. And what that gave me was access, I think, to some of the most extraordinary women there are around today. They've written for me, I've spoken with them on panels, I've quoted them in articles, I wrote a column about all this kind of women's stuff for years at the Sunday Times. And what that gives you is just an incredible network. So what I've tried to do at Noon is share the very best of those incredible women with all of you, because I'm a great believer that women, when we support each other and we remind ourselves kind of how strong we are and what we can do, and also that the things that we find hard aren't just things that we're personally finding hard, but that everybody's finding them hard. I think that there's a huge companionship and support in that. So everything that we do at Noon is about trying to share the kinds of support that we know are out there with a wider audience, and also really seeing this point of midlife as an age of opportunity, rather than seeing it as where the tracks kind of narrow and you become invisible and your life kind of goes like this. Someone was saying that to me last week. Actually, this is where your life can really open out. This is where you really become the woman that you're supposed to be. And I really believe that. I think that the years between 25 and 50, Aviva Wittenberg-Cox, who works with us a lot, talks about as the years of achievement. It's kind of where you do all the things that you were programmed to think that you were supposed to do before you kind of got there. And we all think, right, there are boxes, we're programmed by our families or whatever to think that there are boxes we're supposed to tick. And you kind of do all that, whether that's having kids or having a career or all the things that your parents told you were supposed to do. And I think by the time you're 50, you've probably done quite a lot of those things and some other things. And maybe it's gone well, maybe it hasn't gone so well, but you're kind of ready for a next phase. And a lot of us find ourselves kind of spat out, whether that's because children leave home or your job that you did for years suddenly doesn't need you anymore, or somebody gets sick, or you get divorced, or somebody dies, or there are just big changes that hit at this time of life. And therefore we all have to reinvent ourselves. And I think we're all dealing with some kind of lack or sense of something that we need to fix or something that we want to do. And so Noon is there to say, this is your opportunity. If you're not going to do it now, when are you going to do it? And the people that we try and bring in are there to really help that happen. I can see Jen smiling. She and I are also real fellow travellers on this. We worked together at the Times. Jen was head of the Times Online when I was the Saturday editor, and then she went off and set up an amazing platform called Brit Mums, which is for a kind of earlier stage for kind of mummy bloggers.
Yeah.
So all of us at Noon, we're there kind of out of purpose. We're there because we really mean it, and we're really trying to create a kind of revolution and a new kind of movement around women in midlife.
Yeah, I think too, listening to Christina, it's so refreshing to have someone talk about, take a more holistic view that all these things are going on. You've got, stress, you've got that kind of typical sandwich generation pressures, but even just talking about the hormones that go on. And it's not just about the menopause hormones. It's not just those female hormones. It's all these other things going on that are natural. And instead of it being this complete focus on menopause and you're becoming cranky and you can no longer, get pregnant, that actually there are all kinds of changes going on in the body, but that has a real effect on sleep, on how you feel, on your weight, on your energy. And I feel like, even having read around a lot of this thing, that I don't really get that much information that speaks to what it's been like, for me personally, where suddenly it's like, yeah, I feel completely different. I don't even feel like myself some days. And that's not bizarre or personal failing, or why don't I just power through that? There are all kinds of ways you
and
can deal with it.
I think that's really important. I think it's really important to be kind to yourself and understand that, like you say, there's a lot of change is difficult. Somebody said that to me when I'd just been made redundant from the Sunday Times. And it was one of the most comforting things that anyone said, that it was okay to be finding it hard. And transition is difficult, but it's also life enhancing. You move into a new chapter where you feel completely renewed and restored. And that's what Christina is going to be there to try and help all of you do. And certainly, having been through what I now call my noon time myself over the last 2 years, I now feel a 1,000,000% better. I didn't at the beginning, it was horrible, but the process kind of, it's a bit like a plant being pruned. You kind of chop off all the dead wood and you end up with something much more vigorous and kind of revived. And I feel really excited about all the things that are possible, and I want all of you to feel like that too. So that's the kind of point of everything we're trying to do. Oh, good. I mean, that was the age of achievement. I talk about having achieved the shoulds. Yeah, and now looking at the coulds. I think that's brilliant. I talk about your 50s when you become the woman you're supposed to be. It's when all those threads in your life finally come together and you throw off all the things that everybody else has told you should be doing, or that sometimes you can get the sense that you're kind of sleepwalking through your own life, and you kind of get back behind the wheel and take charge. And that's what we're really trying to do. I can see that Christina is desperately trying to rejoin us, so hopefully she will pop back in.
Here she is.
Here she is. Oh, she's in she's also changed outfit. So we've just been talking about kind of midlife a bit in your absence, Christina, but why don't you kind of finish out, because I can see that we're getting towards the end, and we've got so many incredible comments on the chat, people saying this is the best hour I've spent in 2022 and how important this is. So you're obviously wowing them, and I hope that a lot of you sign up for Christina's course and come and do more stuff with us at Noon, or do come see our book club, read some of our articles. We'd love to have you. Anyway, I'm going to hand back to Christina.
Thank you, Eleanor. And my apologies for the technical problem. Something's happened to my laptop. It's never happened before. So my apologies about that. But anyway, I think one of the things that we were talking about when technology went a bit belly up was the understanding of why everything just happens at the same time. Now, I'm just keen, because I can't see the questions coming through, Jennifer, if there are any questions that have come through, because the last part of the presentation that I was going to talk about is the model around maintaining a sustainable life. Now, and when I talk about sustainability, what I talk about here is about the fact that bringing our true soul and energy into our life through optimal health, as well as through an understanding of what our lifestyle is about. Now, I'm not someone who is a doctor, but I am someone who knows that with the small tweaks that we can make in our life, we can actually go a long way in improving the way we are. And so this is also about understanding, who do we have in our circle of influence that can help us? We need doctors, we need endocrinologists, we obviously need trainers. And on the point of exercise, one of the things that I needed to make sure that I get across is when we talk about exercising, a lot of women say, oh, I'll start exercising and that's going to help me lose weight and I'm going to get back in control. However, as our body changes, one of my learnings has been, because I was bashing the gym when I was in my mid-40s, I would even go twice a day and I would do exercising that is very high cardio. But as we age, we don't need high cardio. Why? Because high cardio increases the amount of
cortisol we have inside us, which means we're actually being counterproductive. Well, that's one of the reasons when I talk about the fourth part of the model is about sustainability, is about understanding what you can do from a sustainable level ongoing to make sure that you're not fighting against your body, but you're doing the type, for example, of exercising that works for you and that helps you, as opposed to increasing your cortisol. And that's one of the reasons why, for me, it's very important to put that point across, because I had no idea that this was something that I was doing to sabotage myself. So I know we've got about 10 minutes or so left, but I can go through the various sessions that we run, but I'd love to actually have any more questions before I jump into the formula of the Midlife Reboot, Rebuild, Reconquer that I work with. Do we have any questions, Jennifer, that I may not have seen?
None right now. So people have asked about the cost of the course. And so we're putting that all into the chat, but it would be great, if you could run through it a bit.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so the course is divided into 3 sections. That's why we call it Reboot, Rebuild, Reconquer. The first is part of the course is all about rebooting you. So the first phase is all about you understanding where you are today, what's happening inside you physically, mentally, but also spiritually. We go through so many shifts at the same time. We spend a lot of time looking at physically how you're changing, when what the challenges that you're seeing yourself happen. Like for example, for me, when I said to you I was a lot bigger and I felt like I was depressed and lacked control, those were the things that I actually rebooted. And part of that also is looking at how do you deal with fear. Fear is a big issue for us. Why? Because when we are in an unknown territory, as we are when we're in midlife, we need to have strategies to be able to overcome those moments when we're super uncertain. So this is where we also focus on resilience. We also focus on resilience and look at when have you in the past been resilient and how you can tap into those past strategies to give you the strength to move forward. So that's the reboot phase. The rebuild is all about understanding your or identifying your midlife mojo, your passion, what gets you out of bed. When we are at this point, actually, one of research has proven that when people get older, they tend to focus their careers and their interests and things that are important and they find pleasurable, as well as gives them a sense of purpose. So what we do here is we focus on what gives you that sense of purpose. And frankly, we need that. Why? Because it also increases our level of self-love. I know that I was super critical about what I was doing, and I was actually feeling very, I lacked a lot of confidence, okay? Don't look at me now, about 2 or 3 years ago and even longer, because I was going through so many shifts, I basically became someone who was half the level of confidence that I have now, and I needed to be realigned with my strengths and my passions, which is exactly what I did last year when I went through this enormous reboot and rebuilding. And we look at then what is your future calling. By the way, midlife is one of the many transitions you're going to go through in life. So what we focus on is helping you kind of create a path for yourself, but at least you'll be ready to look at what you can do to not only overcome fear, as we said earlier, but at the same time be open to new opportunities that may be out there. And here we use one of my favorite exercises, which is all about using your vision board, your midlife transformation vision board. I get you to work on a vision board on what you will look like at the end of your midlife transformation, which is so powerful and helps rebuild confidence. Then the third sexy part of the Midlife Muse Transformation bootcamp is the reconquering. And this is where we're looking at our mind, our body, and how it changes and how we get that sense of control. Some of the strategies relate to what we eat, our habits, the way we run our life, small things. For example, what I find really powerful petting a pet, you know, stroking cats. I walk around the streets and I just try and find a lovely cat to stroke because I don't have pets at home. My partner and husband is allergic. And you know what? That's my oxytocin fix. I do that every single day because I've realized that helps bring up oxytocin, reduce cortisol, which is that magical duo I was talking about earlier. And then we focus on getting you to find what is your new path and create your personal affirmations for when things get a little bit rocky. And I'm all for us ladies having our Muse mentoring mesh, which is our tribe of nutritionists, individuals who doctors, as I said earlier, your coaches, your trainers, etc., the people who are going to guide you through this, and other women as the Noon Academy. We are the linchpin of the change. We need to support each other. So this is where we focus a little bit of time on building your mentoring mesh, your Muse mentoring mesh. And finally, the two most important things is also fighting the imposter syndrome, because when we go through midlife, a lot of the times when we come out of our transformation, we get a little bit, how do I say this? Because we're changing, we're unsure that we have the confidence to be who we believe we could be. So this is where the imposter syndrome comes in. And that's how we focus on that in one session and how you overcome that to then become a transformational leader. Every muse is a leader. Every single one of you ladies who are listening to me are a leader, just like Eleanor is, just like the Noon team is. Each one of us can make an impact and support other women. So we spend a little bit of time on looking how you can become a leader to other women. And that makes you feel even more powerful. And hopefully that will get you even more jazzed up, as I like to call it. So those are the three phases of the Midlife Muse Transformation Bootcamp. Jennifer, I think there was a question that popped up that I kind of missed. Would you mind repeating that for me?
Yes.
Or reading it?
Yes. We have one from, I think it's from Alexandra. I'm only just addressing and analyzing this process, but I love the idea of midlife being an opportunity to recap on the previous 20 to 30 years. Reviewing what went before and what you want to capitalize on going forward is key to overcoming some of the fears that get in the way of a reboot.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. I think it's Alexandra. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a great inflection point, and that's what's so fantastic about it. It is a midlife reinvention. We're recreating ourselves, and you know what? Because we have this color hair, we're much wiser. So it's a great time to reassess, but at the same time, do things much more intelligently than we have in the past, purely because we've got a lot more wisdom. So the way this also helps is by giving you the opportunities to build that path. It kind of short circuits a lot of what you're going to have to do anyway, what's going to need to happen anyway as you come through the midlife the phase, which is long. I mean, one of the things I didn't mention is that perimenopause for some women can last up to 15 years. You saw my perimenopause has been easily 10 years and I think a lot longer. Menopause is a little bit shorter, but then the postmenopausal can be just as long. So this is what we have to be very cognizant, that we have to manage our balances, if you like, our hormonal, physical, mental, spiritual, to constantly be recalibrating. So thank you for that question, and absolutely.
Yes, and we have another comment from Nancy saying along similar lines, great to hear Christina talking about the fear, not just the maelstrom. It's crippling for many during the midlife transition.
Absolutely, and thank you for appreciating that, Nancy. Fear is, look, I've faced it myself. When I didn't know what was going on and I was depressive in 2020, I remember I was lying in bed with terrible chronic pains, because that's the other thing I didn't mention earlier, is the fact that when we have high cortisol, we have high inflammation, and I also suffer from an autoimmune disease, which is called endometriosis, which is very common, by the way, in women. And it came to a 4 in the middle of 2020. And I remember lying in bed, completely depressive, with absolutely no energy. So I had absolutely no mojo, and at the same time fearing of what the future would hold because it was full of uncertainty. So Nancy, thank you for appreciating it, and we have to work with it. And it's a sense of energy, by the way. So fear is always going to be there. It's how we deal with it that's important. Jennifer, there's a couple of questions.
Yeah. So Alexandra responded, I think building confidence and self-belief are what I need to focus on, being bolder. Anupa has popped in. Hi, Anupa. How to reduce stress and learn to be happy again and getting past imposter syndrome and self-doubt. And Claire has said, assuming you recalibrate from a lifestyle perspective, but feel completely stuck regarding career, can you help with that?
Absolutely. Oh, Claire, thank you for that question. Yes, everything that I talk about here has a multi-level of recalibration. It's physical, it's mental, social, as well as professional. You're absolutely right. Because when we get to this midpoint, I've had to do this myself. Last year, I wasn't developing and delivering these courses. These courses came out as a result of having experienced myself what happens, learning at the same time, testing everything on myself. And now I feel more competent and comfortable now helping and supporting women. So you're absolutely right. Professional recalibration is just as fundamental. And I think I mentioned earlier the research that shows that when we get older, and I say wiser, it's not about age, it's just a number. I am not someone here who's ageist. On the contrary, you can see that I prefer my platinum hair to the black hair that I used to have, and I had a mane. But the point here is that now we can do things. We have it's like a second lease of life. I believe we're all going to live, hopefully, if we look after ourselves and we do not sabotage ourselves like my mother did, we can live easily another 40 to 50 years, if not longer. So absolutely, we're going to have many careers going forward. And was there another question?
We have a comment from Claire saying, you are a complete inspiration. And
oh, Claire, thank you.
And Fiona has said she's trying to book. I've sent the link. I put it in the chat. It's if you go to noon.org.uk right after this, it will be at the top of the page, so you can go and sign up for the full course with Christina. Yes, and we are so coming up on our last few minutes. Christina, if you wanted to say some final words.
Yes, I do. I don't know if I answered the question about how do we reduce stress and increase happiness. And I think this is where the point about looking at what is from a lifestyle, from a health, but also our mental perspective, what are we doing? Because we need to understand how what we do on a day-to-day basis impact our performance. So there's a lot of focus that we give on our performance management, and this is what I like to call optimizing. So absolutely, we will work on that, and there's so much that I cannot do justice in the next 6 minutes or so that we've got happening. But just remember that it is more than just a sense of, I'm just going to take HRT and that's it. And hormone replacement therapy is very powerful. By the way, there's so many different options, especially in the UK. Those who are in the UK are very lucky because the rest of the world doesn't have the same options. But it's only one part of a very complex puzzle that hits us, which is what we kind of unpack and work with you over the 12 sessions. And I remind you, there's 4 live sessions, and then the other 8 are actual on demand. You work through them at your time, but you have the opportunity to spend time with me in the 4 live sessions. And of course, you'll have your dedicated Midlife Muse Transformation mentoring group, which, trust me, the energy is fantastic, and it really is money can't buy. I think that's about it from my side, unless there's any more questions.
No,
yeah, there's any more questions.
Yeah, I think that's it for questions. So like I said, if you go to, excuse me, if you go to the Noon home site, you'll be able to see a piece that, a post that gives a bit more information about the course with a link to sign up. We will be sending out an edited video of this session via Eventbrite. So look out for that, Eventbrite or Zoom, and it'll come to you so you can rewatch this. And otherwise, there will be more of Christina around on Noon, of course. So Final words?
Thank you, guys. And then my apologies for the technical issues, but we got it sorted.
We got it sorted. Thank you everyone for coming and spending a bit of time on your Saturday with us. Katrina says, thank you. Nancy, wonderful. Thanks. Susan, thank you. Thanks everyone for giving us your attention, and we'll see you soon.